Shalom, Shalom Israel. I am the brother Yawana from the Great Millstone, Arizona camp, coming back at y'all with Lord's will, another edifying lesson. First and foremost, as always, before I start, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachachodash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Shalom to you brothers pushing and teaching this truth across the four winds of this earth. And as always, peace, blessings, and many salutations be to you sincere Akyam wa Akwath, you brothers, along with you few sisters who are giving all diligence in these last days. Right, through the mercy and grace of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, through his only beloved begotten Son, Yahweh Shai, coming back with another sit-down lesson, just a quick update, on prophecy. And as you can see, I have an article right here on endtimeheadlines.org, or for any of you who want to go and read it for yourself. Right, in the date that it was published, it says February 1st, 2026, all right, which I believe today is the 3rd, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, this is fresh off the press, as I like to say. And, before we go into this article, I want to start right here in the book of Revelation, chapter 12 and verse 12. As a matter of fact, we might as well read the headline. It says, Trump converts 23 giant warehouses into ICE detention centers. So, he's ultimately making, 23, very large warehouses, and he's turning them into detention centers for so-called illegal immigrants, or so-called, migrants, all right, which we understand, Donald Trump, he's always been against the northern tribes. But now he's going to direct that attention also to the southern tribes. And what am I talking about? We understand that there's a northern kingdom of Israel, and there's the southern kingdom. All right, the southern kingdom predominantly consists of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. All right, and the other tribes consist of Gad, right, Naphtali, Issachar, Zebulun, Simeon, and so on and so forth, Manasseh. So these detention centers. My point is for Jake. It's not just for Mexicans, and that's what they'll want you to believe. But again, they are going after all of the they're going after all the tribes. And this is exactly what the Bible goes into via prophecy, man. This is Revelation chapter 12 and verse 12, and this is going to soon come to pass. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea. For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And this devil is not speaking about some mythical creature. This devil, right, that we're reading here, that's going to come down having great wrath, is an actual man, right? And this is Strong's G 1228, and it's the Greek word diabolos, right? Diabolos, and it says, or diabolos. Right, Salakia, it says, prone to slander, slanderous, accusing falsely. Right, metaphor applied to a man who, by opposing the cause of God, may be said to act the part of the devil or to side with him. All right, so we understand, that the devil is speaking about here is a so-called white man, all right, which his biblical nationality goes back to the house of Edom, right, the Idumeans, all right, and these are the individuals that are in power right now, and they're able to make these different rules. And they're able to set up these different things, really so that the Lord's putting the Spirit on them to do these things to further bring forth His will, right, to fulfill prophecy, man. Because all things obey the will of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So as we see this, taking place, we understand that this prophecy, Revelation 12 and 12, where these devils are going to come down and having great wrath, is very near. All right, it's very near, it's very close, it's not as far away as most people may think. And that's why I'm going to go to this next scripture, right? And this is Ezekiel chapter 12 and verse 21. It says, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man. So let me actually go down and get to the point, right? Ezekiel chapter 12 and verse 26. Again, the word of the Lord came to me, saying, Son of man, behold, they of the house of Israel say, the vision that he seeth is for many days to come, and he prophesieth of the times that are far off. All right, and that's what our people said in the ancient days. Everything that we tell them is concerning the prophecies, which hey, they don't believe. They say that, oh, even if it were to happen, that's not going to happen in our lifetime. It's not going to happen for a long time, as far ahead in the future, but we're living in a time where, that saying is, going to cease, and people aren't going to be saying that no more. All right, because more things are going to start happening, and then these people are going to have that realization that a prophet was amongst them. Okay, and majority of that, when that starts happening, right, in a mass scale, for a lot of people, it's going to be too late. All right, because the warning is going out now. All right, now it's time to get right with the Lord and prepare yourself, right, mentally and spiritually for these days ahead, man, because the days ahead are very dark days. Remember, Yahushua told us, right, in Matthew 24, right, Mark 13, and in Luke the 21st chapter, that when we would see wars and rumors of wars, which we've been seeing, okay, we've been seeing, Donald Trump went and captured the Venezuelan president, all these different, tensions are just continuing to rise as we see, between America and these other nations. Even America's allies, Europe, now considers America, an enemy. All right, so that's showing prophecy as well, where, America's allies are turning on her. Okay, you see, so we were told that we see wars and rumors of wars, that we see pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places, and then there's this whole night, Nipah, Cyrus, that could definitely be more deadly than, the C-19 crisis, which is out, right now. All right, people are being affected, so, we just have to see what happens with that, but everything that Yahushua told us that we would see, we're seeing. But what did he say? That when you see these things, these are the beginning of sorrows, roughly paraphrasing, man. Right now, we're in the beginning of a greater sorrowful time to come, okay? It says the violent clashes that are causing so much chaos in the streets of our major cities aren't going to stop. Tens of thousands of anti-ICE activists have already been recruited, and more are joining their ranks with each passing day. At this stage, the only thing that could put a lid on the volcano of fury that we are witnessing would be if President Trump decided to pull ICE out of all our cities and stop deportations. Of course, there is no way that is going to happen, right? Of course, because these devils are, they are seeing an opportunity to be able to be justified, to, pretty much round up Jake, because, Donald Trump even said it, and I did a lesson on it, some months ago, where he was talking about, kids in Chicago, and he has a point to an extent, but that's how he looks at all Jake. He's like, well, the crime is so high over here, they're killing their own people. Jake is, man. But at the same time, who's allowing that influence, upon them. Really, Esau controls all the social media. Here it is, brothers. Your videos are getting flagged every other day for teaching our people the truth. But then you got these rappers, which are sellouts, all right, who have, pretty much taken the bag and, given their mind over to Satan, just for some material riches, man. All right, and especially these rappers, they're some of the most wicked individuals, because they know what they're doing is wrong, but they still push, killing our, killing our brothers, just sleeping with your brother's wife, everything that's contrary to, what's right. These niggas out here on these microphones are pushing it, and then Jake, see that it's cool, and Jake, vibe with the beat. So then, that's over time, what that'll do is that'll have you following after those same things, after those same wicked patterns, so, but again, Esau controls all the social media, and he allows for our people to continue to do these things, right? To continue to make these rap videos, smoking weed and doing and talking about doing drugs. All right, you see, so it's all by design. All right, so if these devils aren't going to take down those videos, but they have millions of views within the first few hours, what does that really show you, man? Okay, that there's an influence, taking place. All right, and these devils are behind it, as the scriptures say, if adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find them there first. These devils are the root to all the problems that are happening in the world. All right, because they are as death. All right, you see. So yeah, these deportations are not going to stop, right? They're going to ramp up, and it's going to become more intense. Okay, it says, in fact, you will see below, Trump is now converting 23 enormous warehouses around the country into giant ICE detention centers. The goal is to deport 1 million immigrants per year, and that means that the war between ICE and anti-ICE protesters is just getting started. I have always warned that civil unrest would be one of the key elements of the perfect storm that our society would be forced to endure. And now we have reached a stage where the civil unrest never seems to stop. On Friday, law enforcement authorities used pepper balls and tear gas to disperse a mob of violent agitators that had gathered in front of the federal detention center in Los Angeles. Los Angeles police arrested multiple violent agitators after issuing dispersal orders as protesters erupted across the city Friday evening. Thousands of protesters met in front of City Hall in the afternoon before many marched to the federal detention center, where a mob of violent agitators swarmed the area, pushing a large construction dumpster and blocking the entrance to the building's loading dock. LAPD shared video on social media of the unrest, adding in a separate post that authorities had deployed pepper balls and tear gas to disperse the crowd. Even after pepper balls and tear gas had been used, some of the protesters continued to throw bottles, rocks, and other objects at the police. While some protesters dispersed, others remained and continued to throw bottles and rocks at officers, according to LAPD. All right, so, Donald Trump, seeing, again, an opportunity, to be justified to snatch up our people. And, now we're seeing the Lord put the Spirit on him to take that opportunity, right? Because here soon, part of them coming down with great wrath is them fulfilling this right here. This is Revelation chapter 2 and verse 10. It reads, "Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer," right? Because we're getting ready to go through a time of great suffering, man. All right, and that's why right now, the time we're in is very important to build up our faith, okay, and our relationship with Yahweh Shemashah, because as we go to suffer, there's going to come points where you're going to feel like you can't go on anymore. All right, but that's when the Lord is going to come through, because he doesn't put too much on us to what we can't bear. The Lord's not just going to put 1,000 pounds on you knowing that you can only carry 500, right? He's going to put enough on you to test you, right, to the limit, but at the same time, he's going to make a way, as it says in Revelation 3 and 10. "Because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall try the whole world and them that dwell therein." I see that because you ultimately continue to be obedient, right? Continue to fight that good fight, right? The Lord is going to keep, Lord willing, protect us in the days ahead. Okay, when these devils start to move on us, and start to flood these neighborhoods, apartment complexes. All right, they're gonna come deep, bro. And I remember I had a dream a couple months back. Well, actually, last year, around the time of the Passover, if I'm not mistaken, where I was pretty much asleep, and I had woke up, and I looked out my window because I heard all different types of multitudes of people talking, real loud, people screaming. And I looked out my window and I seen like all these different, I don't know if they were military or who they were, but they were definitely obviously one of Esau's government officials and whatnot. But they all had it looked like bulletproof vests, and they had ARs, and they were deep, man. I'm talking about deep. There was hundreds of them, and just escorting people in single file lines, into these trucks. And you know what I'm saying? Those are the times that we're in, brothers. Where it goes to say, "Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried." Now, I didn't see where they were being taken, but at the same time, we understand the scriptures. We already know where they're being taken, man. They're being taken into those detention centers, right? Re-education camps, or whatever you want to call them. It's all the same thing. So Donald Trump is not making pretty much reconstructing 23 warehouses into detention centers for no reason. All right, he's doing it, with intention. All right, scriptures say that the devices of the churl are evil. All right, the word devices goes into plans. Evil men have evil plans. All right, especially when it concerns, all right, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native American Indians, which are the Israelites according to the Bible. All right, it says, "The devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried. And you shall have tribulation 10 days. See that we're going to be tried. This is part of us being tried, man, thrown in those prisons. Some of us are going to be taken, as we're reading, and we're going to go into those camps with thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of other individuals, men, women, and children, elderly. All right, and we're going to have to be strong, man. We're going to have to, we're going to have to fight through that shit, man, because it's going to be hard. All right, just to be blunt about it. All right, because he says that you may be tried. The Lord wants to see how you're going to react. What did you learn in this time that we're in now? Because right now we're in a time of getting built up, by building ourselves and rooting ourselves upon the rock, okay, which is Yahweh Shai. All right, we are to, root ourselves and get a very good and solid foundation, so that when the storm comes, we're not going to fall. All right, when the winds start to blow and the floods come in, we're not going to be moved, Lord willing, okay, because we took proper preparation, all right, within this truth, all right, which is the best thing you can do for yourself. And you shall have tribulation 10 days, right? It could be more than that, because 10 is a complete number, so it could be more, it could be less, however long the Lord sees fit for you to be in there, right? If it's not your lot to be a martyr, right, to die for the truth, it says, be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. And that's what we have, Lord willing, waiting for us on the other side of death, is a crown of life, okay? You see, a crown of life because you kept the faith, a crown of life because you didn't give up. You see, because these things are about to happen. Let's go to Second Ezra. Get ready to close it. I just got a couple more scriptures. I didn't want to draw this out too long. Just kind of wanted to blow the trumpet on this. Because some people may see it and be like, oh, it's just for Mexicans. No, it's for all the tribes, right? So again, all you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, because we're living in that time where this devil is running out of time. All right, and he's just gonna come with it. He's just gonna come raw and uncut, right? He's just gonna show himself for who he truly is, and he, every day, slowly but surely, he's really starting to do it. Right now, really, the Lord is doing it. The Lord is just putting the Spirit on him to, reveal His own self. All right, because here soon, everybody's getting ready to see it. So, as that day gets closer, more we're gonna see. And now with the whole, Epstein files coming out. There's too much being exposed, at the same time of us, going into these prophecies, so, they really are going to come with it, man. They're losing on all sides. When a dog's backed into a corner, well, shit, the rest, right? And right now, these Edomites are being backed into a corner. All right, so they're going to just say, fuck it, and they're going to come down. The Lord's going to put the Spirit on them to do so. It says, for 2 Ezra 16 and verse 68, for behold, the burning wrath of a great multitude is kindled over you, and they shall take away certain of you and feed you, being idle with things offered unto idols. See, that burning wrath goes into Esau, Edom, and his, different branches of authority, ultimately coming upon us, man. All right, coming upon our people, right, taking us away. And they that consent unto them shall be had in derision and in reproach and trodden underfoot. See, that's what we tell you, Jakes. Don't trust in these devils that they have your best interests at heart, because here soon they're going to make you take a micro C-hip, right, to be able to buy and sell, right? And so a lot of people are going to take that, micro C-hip, which is the MOTB, the mark of the beast, all right, and they don't understand that in taking that, now your life is completely worse. They didn't want a better life for you. They wanted control over your life, all right? Now that's what they're trying to accomplish through this Neuralink, where it has access to your brain. It could essentially turn you on and turn you off like a light switch. See, they want to play, they want to play being the Most High, but they can't be. They're only men. You see? So if you consent to these devils in time, you're going to be made a laughing stock, and you're going to be in great shame. All right? It says, for there shall be in every place and in the next cities a great insurrection upon those that fear the Lord. You see that there's going to be a great insurrection, right? A violent uprising against the people, all right, on all those who oppose this system. It says, they shall be like mad men, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear the Lord. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. They ain't cast them out of their houses. This is getting ready to take place, man. A lot of us are going to lose our homes. We're going to lose our cars, We're going to lose our jobs. Might even lose your own family, man. But that's part of, counting the cost, man, as you, labor from day to day. All right. We always have to have it on our mind that everything we have really isn't ours, right? It's all temporary, man. And a lot of people are really, when it comes time to have to make that faith-based decision and leave it all behind, a lot of people are going to fold, because a lot of people are comfortable and they have everything they would ever want. So why they want to leave it all behind? That's the mindset that a lot of these people are in, not understanding that, again, this shit is temporary. Okay? 2 Ezra 16 to 72. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses. See that? They're going to take away all your supplies, all your medical supplies, your food, water, and they're going to cast you out of your house. And where are you going to be taken? You're going to be taken to a concentration camp, all right? Or as they say now, right? I forget what they called it. They called it something. Like a detention center. It's the same thing. Verse 73, 2 Ezra 16 and 73. Then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as the gold in the fire. See that? We're going to be tried. This is a great time of testing is coming. All right, a great time of testing. The spiritual SATs or final exams, right? It says, as gold in the fire, hear, ye my beloved, saith the Lord. Behold, the days of trouble are at hand, but I will deliver you from the same. You see that? The Lord has acknowledged it. That look, the days of trouble are coming, but I will save you out of it. Okay, I will deliver you, I will rescue you. Be ye not afraid, neither doubt, for the Most High is your God, and the God of them who keep my commandments and precepts, saith the Lord Yahweh. See that? So the Lord is the guide of those who keep his commandments and his precepts. All right, and not only know them, but follow them and apply them. Okay, to the best of your abilities. That the ones of you brothers out there and you few sisters that are doing that, right? Reading the scriptures, trying their best to apply them in faith. Seeking the Lord. You're in a very blessed position right now. Okay, and Lord willing, we be of the elect, man, because we're definitely gonna need the Lord's help in the days ahead, which we understand He only have care for His elect, man. So we hope to be of that number, because this is getting ready to happen, man. Everything that we know concerning Jacob's, because really that's part of Jacob's trouble, man, is Esau coming down, having great wrath, setting up detention centers, education camps, and hey, it's gonna be bad. But at the end of the day, the Lord told us of these things, right? This is Isaiah 42 and verse 8. In the NLT it says, or matter of fact, verse 9 in the NLT on the right hand side. All right, everything I prophesied has come true, and now I will prophesy again. I will tell you the future before it happens. You see that? So the Lord says He's going to tell us the future before it happens. And how He do that? By giving us the eyesight, man, giving us the understanding of the scriptures, man. Right? Giving us the spirit to go out here and teach, to also warn the rest of our people of what's going on. All right, and what's getting ready to happen. Okay, because as we see, these people are still in nonchalant, everything's going to be okay type spirit. But if you're not seeking the Lord, right, and you're not asking for forgiveness of your sins, that the Lord may, cleanse you thoroughly so you become new and approved in His sight, then you're really just fuel for the fire, man. This is a very serious time, man, because the Lord is about to make a separation between the real and the fake, right? The fake are going to be left behind, and the real are going to be connected they're gonna be connected to the Lord, man. For lack of better words, I'm a little tired, so forgive me. I woke up, a little early, middle of the night pretty much, and just, your spirit was on me, so I was just, scrolling through the news, see what's going on, and this is major news, man. What I'm saying? Because we already know that, Donald Trump, had, our people being sent to alligator Alcatraz. All right, we already know what the hell was going on over there, man. Thousands of Jake, has gone missing. They sent a lot of them Jakes on them planes and then shackled and chained them together just to throw them off the plane while it was still in the air. What I'm saying? They washed up on shore, dead, with still cuffed to each other. So when, you really got to look at this thing like LD Ashawamba says, from the Dallas church. He always says, don't look at things from a civilian perspective, but the perspective of a soldier. Right, this is war being declared, man. All right, because if they're doing all those great atrocities and evils, all right, within alligator Alcatraz, as we all well know and understand, what more evil and sinister plans do they have for these other locations, man? All right, so again, a time of terror is coming. All right, but that's why we need the Lord, right? That's why we desperately need Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. That's why I take this thing seriously, man, so that when you pray in the days ahead, the Lord will remember your voice. He'll remember your works, and He'll remember, your faith, right, that you showed. This is Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus, chapter 51, and verse 10. It says, I called upon the Lord, the Father of my Lord. Let me highlight this for y'all so you can see it better. Sirach 51:10, I called upon the Lord, the Father of my Lord, that he would not leave me in the days of my trouble and in the time of the proud when there was no help. Yeah, and that's what we, ask the Lord. This really is a prayer. Pray this prayer, okay? That the Lord doesn't leave you, right, or leave the brothers, man, in the time of trouble, right? Nor does he leave those that you care about, because at the end of the day, we still got people we care about in the world, not saying people that are doing straight wickedness, but, your moms, or, you might have a friend that may have never did you wrong, he might not agree with you, but, y'all still cordial, pray that the Lord, protect him or bring him into the knowledge fully, you know what I'm saying? Because these people truly don't know, what's getting ready to happen. They think we're crazy, but we're not crazy. All right, we're actually, what like the elders say, you gotta be a little crazy, right? But we have sound doctrine and we have a sound mind. Our mind is in the right place. All right. See, so this is our prayer, that the Lord doesn't leave us in the days of trouble, right? But we understand that if we're the elect, He won't, right? Because the Lord, how shall I say? He said, I will be with you always, even to the end of the world. So, and that, that statement, applies to all you believers, man. To all of us who believe and call upon the Lord, right? That the Lord will be with us all the way until the very end, right? Performing that good work in us with the, at the same time. And in the time of the proud, when there was no help, there ain't about to be no help out here, man. Friends are going to turn on each other like enemies. It's going to be every man for himself. It's going to be a free-for-all out here, man. You see, all we're gonna have is Akim, the brothers, and the Lord. Which Akim means brothers, right? In the Hebrew, but we're just gonna have brothers and the Lord. That's it, and that's really how it is now. But it's gonna be more apparent in the days ahead when shit starts to hit the fan, right? I will praise Thy name continually, and will sing praise with thanksgiving. And so my prayer was heard. For Thou savest me from destruction, and deliverest me from the evil time. And we're hoping to be saved from destruction and delivered in the evil time, because the time we're coming into is very evil. All right, the word evil just translates to bad. Bad times, a very bad time is coming upon the planet Earth, here to America. All right, and the scriptures go into it, as we've covered a couple of them already. It says, therefore will I give thanks and praise Thee and bless Thy name, O Lord. That's right, and that's what we continue to call upon, man. And those are the names that we must continue to call upon, all right, for all things, all right? So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying and informative. As always, before I close off, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory unto Yahweh B'Hashem, Yahweh Shai, B'Hashem Rachach Chodash. And, one more quick point that I wanted to add before I close out, okay, because I'm glad I had this pulled up, right? I did see this, too, before I went into this lesson, right, how Trump, it says President Trump ends temporary protected status for 353,000 Haitians. Mass deportation set to begin February 3rd. And again, today is the 3rd. So, we'll see what's going to happen. If something, we're living in the time where the Lord is speeding things up. So, whereas once, years ago, we would see something and it would look as if it was going to escalate, but then months go by and nothing happens. No, we're living in a time where things are picking up very fast, all right, because the Lord is shortening the days, all right? So just wanted to bring this out because it's very, crucial to understand, the mindset that these devils are in. They're not only going after, the northern tribes of Israel. They are going after the southern tribes too, all the tribes. You got Jake out here, you have, I saw Ishkarite on Facebook. He posted 2 pictures, one before he went outside, and then one, when he was outside. And before he went outside, he was an Ishkarite, a so-called Mexican, a brother. And he was did up nice. But then when he went outside, he had put like a fake wig hair cap on, disguised as a brother, because he said he didn't want to get captured by ICE. So he disguised himself as being so-called black. All right, but all those jokes and games are coming to an end. Things that Jake even got to go, the extents or the lengths that Jake has to go through just to survive out here. Jake disguising himself, as a whole nother, individual just to, protect himself, man. It's sad, but it has a little humor to it. But it is sad, man, and it just goes to show we're living in hell, man. And at the same time, Jake ain't gonna be able to get away with that, man. Because they're going to start coming after brothers too, man. All right, so-called Negroes. All right, so I just wanted to, pull that out because, we've, throughout history, we as a people have been oppressed together, and this time is no different. All right, so, we'll see what happens again February 3rd. Today's the 3rd. So, hey, just pay attention, man. Watch and pray as Yahweh Shai, commanded us all to do. So again, with that, I do hope and pray this was edifying and informative. And before I end off, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and infinite glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rachachorash. Double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone, our teachers. Until next time, Lord's will, I say shalom, stay strong, and keep the faith. Shalom.